So we have some breaking news, though, folks. Beto O'Rourke, the former congressman from Texas, is dropping out of the Democratic race. Does that make you happy or sad, Jesse?
So sad.
Well, it makes me certain that the voters saw that he wasn't really a credible candidate, and he was toast after the gun grab deal. And I feel like if I was a donor, I'd be wanting my money back.
We just had this conversation about authenticity comparing, Hillary to Bernie, and Beto is a perfect example of someone that I just don't believe anything he says. He doesn't have that level of authenticity when he speaks about things. And I think he went too extreme when he was talking about the mandatory gun buyback, and I think it turned a lot of people off, so I'm not surprised. I'm not
Greg, I know that you were enchanted with his appearance on Vanity Fair.
Yes, that was his downfall, was being anointed by people who were just like him, the white liberal editor types. Believe me, I know
everything with you is about race.
Yes, I know that. You know what's funny?
Well played.
Juan, you know what the election was for him?
What?
It was a journey of self-realization, and we started to see that the fact that this was all about him finding himself, and everybody was nauseated by. He was like the world's worst millennial, and he's not. I don't even think he's a millennial.
But Dana, just looking at this from hardball political perspective, he did very well in fundraising when he was running against Ted Cruz in that Senate race in Texas. Yep. There was a great deal of excitement about him as potentially a new face for the Democratic Party. Young man, almost Kennedy-esque, Camelot and all that. So much of that seems to have faded in this presidential race.
Which is why, a few weeks ago I said he was a zombie candidate, meaning that he's dead. He just doesn't know it yet in terms of his candidacy. But just remember, so he raised a ton of money and got a lot of attention in his run-up against Ted Cruz, and he still lost by 6 points. So why did they think that he was going to be this great savior? And I think that he might have a second or a third act, going forward. But if you're running out of money and you can't raise anymore, there comes a point when you have to say, I got to cut this down. I think this is the beginning of the winnowing of this field.
Thank God his wife's family isn't filthy rich. I'm really worried about what he's going to do next.
It was also like,
how's he going to get his health care?
When it came to those debate moments where it came to his time to defend himself, defend his ideology, he did terribly at those things. I think one of the reasons that Bernie Sanders stays in, when you talked about his health condition, is because when he has to defend his principles, it seems like, yes, it comes from a place of him actually believing it, but also he does a pretty good job of battling the other people on the debate floor. And Beto could not defend himself. It looked like he was reading somebody else's talking points that they had written for him all the time. That's just not.
Mayor Pete might have knocked him out at that last debate.
You think? All right. Well, here, give me a chance to read some Beto. Here's Beto O'Rourke, again, who dropped out of the campaign today. Here's a tweet from him. He says, quote, "Our campaign has always been about seeing clearly, speaking honestly, and acting decisively. In that spirit, I'm announcing that my service to the country will not be as a candidate or as the nominee." Dana, I just want to come back to you. There's a lot of discussion about what's going on in Iowa in terms of the polls and who is going to get some of Sanders' support as Bernie starts to fade a little bit. But who gets Beto O'Rourke's support as he leaves the race?
Well, he doesn't have any support, so it's hard to say. Kamala Harris, her campaign is laying off staff, and I think there was even more announcement today, like trying to rearrange things. Again, I think this is like the beginning of the winnowing because they just don't have support out there. But to the extent that there were people out there that were for Beto, I think that if he is like the millennial candidate, I think the only candidate you see that actually has some movement right now is Mayor Pete. And if you're not moving, then you're probably stagnant and dead in the water. So it probably falls to Mayor Pete.
So the way that Dana breaks it down, Jesse, what we've got is Biden, Sanders, and Warren.
Right. Well, the latest poll in Iowa came out, and Biden's in fourth place.
Wow.
It's Warren, it's Bernie, it's Mayor Pete, and then it's Joe Biden.
And by a lot. Like those three are at the top.
There's a big gap, as you said. And I'd be very worried if I was Joe Biden's campaign because he's also running out of money. So if you're not going to win Iowa and maybe lose New Hampshire and you don't have enough money, then you could see him really, really start to fade fast after the first
Could I just
tell
you what we just heard right before we came out here, the Biden campaign said they raised $6 million in October. I think the attacks against him probably helped him in some way.
Well, he should spend some money investing in Iowa because he can't lose. If he loses, he has to get like a second or third. If he gets fourth place in Iowa, that's not a strong enough finish to have any sort of momentum.
I don't know that it really ends his opportunity because if you look at the national polls,
it's not
he's
a knockout.
still in the lead.
No, it wouldn't be a knockout. It would be extremely disappointing.
Well, and it could give momentum to Elizabeth Warren.